Tell me if this sounds familiar. You needed to build an app to help your business get to the next level. You and your team have spent some time designing it at a high level with some high level requirements. You picked a development team you thought could help you get there, and 2 months into the project, you feel like it's off the rails. You fear that it's behind schedule and over budget. Does that sound familiar? I've seen this movie before and I know how it can end. But it can also end in a positive way. Here are 5 tips on how to manage software projects and a 6th bonus one at the end. I'm Matt. I'm your fractional CTO, and I've been running software projects for a quarter of a century. I've helped people succeed with software projects. This has been my career, and it's not easy, but it can be done. With these 6 tips, we can help you get there. I think the first thing to look at is why software projects go over budget or behind schedule. There are a lot of analogies people like to use. One is construction. The construction analogy is really inaccurate. We've been building houses and structures for thousands of years. Even a little hut is a structure. We've been building that. We know what it takes. Still, those go over budget, get behind schedule sometimes. Software is even more complicated than that. So let's go down that road a little bit. Let's say we want to build high-rise in downtown. How many floors do we want it to have? We know how many floors we want it to have before we're going to start to build it. Now, let's take an app. At first, let's say a simple web application that we're going to use. At first, we're going to have hardly any users. That kind of equates to having a single-story building. And then as our app gains popularity, we're going to have more people coming to that app, and we're going to need more floors. So in this scenario, in this analogy, we're going to have a building between 1 and n stories. How many is that? We don't know. So do we build a skyscraper or do we build a single-story building? You can't just retrofit that. That's a little bit true with software because when you scale an app, you do have to build for that, but it's different than a structure where it's a set entity that we're building. So we're building to the unknown. We're building to something that could be, something that might be. So there are a lot more complexities in building software than it seems. There are 2 main reasons why software projects go over budget. The first one, like I mentioned, is complexity. Sometimes we don't know how complex something is until we get in there. The second one is changing scope. Scope meaning what we're working on. A lot of times I've worked on projects where the client has a specific scope in mind, like here are the requirements, we're building this. We get in there, 2 months into it, a week into it, whatever, the priorities change, but then they expect it to be the same budget and same timeline, but we've added all this functionality that they want. We're not building a 1-story building anymore, we're building a 5-story building, and as a result, your budget and timeline have to be adjusted. My job in that situation is to clearly tell them, if you change this, it will cost more time and money. Another part of software projects going off the rails, so to speak, is requirements. So if you do a fixed bid project, you're going to have requirements that are developed at the beginning. This is kind of like the waterfall process where you do requirements up front and then design and then development and then QA and then you're done. But if that's over a 6-month or a year period, how do you know what you're going to build at the very beginning? So thinking through that, if you do fixed bid and it's a large project, your requirements are key. Everyone will be arguing about the requirements. I say arguing because there's always a different perspective. So the client will have one perspective, the people doing the work will have another perspective. And the client can say, well, we told you to build XYZ, and the software development company can say, well, you told us to build ABC, and you both can be right with your different perspectives. That's a very big challenge in software projects. So how do we fix that? Here are 5 tips and a bonus tip at the end. The first one is start small. When do people want to lose 100 pounds? It's always as a New Year's resolution, right? And what's the likelihood of attaining the goal of your New Year's resolution if you just start with a 1-year-long goal? It's not very high. That's why people don't lose weight when they have a New Year's resolution. Instead, if they set a goal of, I want to lose 5 pounds this month or 2 pounds this month, that would be a more attainable goal. And they can do the things to get that goal done. With their long-term goal being, I want to lose X pounds over a year. Same with software projects. So the first thing you need to do is develop an MVP. That's called minimum viable product. Take this big app you have and really pare it down. You want to build very small, succinct little thing. What's the minimum amount you can get done, get out the door so that you can use the product? And along those lines, when you develop what you want, when you're working on the requirements, the business requirements, what you want to do is describe what, not how. Let the tech team determine how, and you tell them what. Let's dig into that a little bit. What's the difference between the two? Let's say we're working on a simple customer management. Let's say we're working on a customer management application or an add-in. We need to store customer data. That's The what, how. We need to store customer data using XYZ technology and ABC data storage. That's the how. Let them figure that out. Sometimes some of that is a business requirement. For example, if you have a tech stack that your entire company uses, a business requirement would be, we're going to use that same tech stack everywhere else. So let's keep the tech stack the same. And then with starting small, you keep refining as you go along. You can make micro adjustments instead of making huge changes. Think of, navigation. When you're navigating with the GPS and you make a wrong turn, it tells you right away. It doesn't wait until you're an hour down the road to make a change. So make small incremental changes along the path. Doing that will help you keep your MVP light and small, and you'll be able to get there quicker. Okay, tip number 2, utilize AI for your MVP. Vibe coding is awesome. It can really get you far quickly at the beginning of a project. The tools aren't there yet to get to production level ready code, but they're getting closer. Eventually they will be. But for now, I would start with a vibe coding tool that you like. Once again, this would be how the development team would work on. So I would do a time box or a spike. Those are common software development terms. And just pick a little bit of time, like spend a week and evaluate 5 different tools, one a day, and then come up with a summary of which one we're going to use and why. Then you can make a decision based on the feedback from the dev team. And it's also important that the vibe coding tool can utilize the tech stack that you're going to use in production for the system. It's no good if it's in Java and you need it in TypeScript or Node.js or something. Don't do that just because it's quick, because then you have to port it over to the new language. Then you've lost all your savings on time. So pick something that's useful for you and your team. Okay, tip number 3, hire the right dev team. So when you're doing software projects, you have to have a team of developers, whether that's in-house or outsourced dev team. You have to have the right structure in place. You have to have the right people and roles filled. A dev team is not just developers. There are business analysts, there are QA professionals, QA engineers, there are visual designers, web designers, app designers that will determine the look and feel. There's the user experience design team. There's project management in the form of usually a scrum master. And then with the development team, you're going to have different levels and different focuses. So you'll have an architect, and you'll have senior, mid, and junior level developers. And within that, there's also front end or back end. So back end will work on the services that access the database and access other services, third-party services. And then the front end people will be working on what you see, what the buttons look like, what the form layout is like, all that kind of stuff. So there's front end, there's back end, and then it works together to build your app. There's also structure as far as how many senior devs versus mid-level devs versus junior devs. The junior guys will need management from the more senior people. And then the architect is going to be one that sets the tone for the entire code base. That person is very critical. And the reason for that is you don't want to incur technical debt. You want to maintain the code easily. You want to have good quality, clean, maintainable code. That's where the architect comes into place. And then each level down, so you have your architect, senior, mid, and junior devs. Each one will be responsible for maintaining that architecture for the level below them. Keep it lean, keep it tight, and make sure that no one manages too many people. That way they can still write good code for you. Tip number 4, constantly monitor and measure. To be successful in your software project, you have to be involved. Your team, management team, the business team will have to be more involved than you think that they should. That's a fact. Everyone says they don't have time. Well, they should get time, because that's how the team is successful. That's how the project is successful. I had a project with a client that was just so busy, they couldn't verify things. And so we had code that was ready to go that would save them 2 hours a day, and they didn't have 20 minutes to test it, to verify it before we put it in production. They didn't want us to put it in production without them verifying it, but I just didn't understand. So you want to be involved, and you want to support the development effort. There are 3 aspects to that. First is to be available. There are going to be times when they need you to hop on a call to clear up requirements, and you, not meaning you, the CEO, or you, the founder, or you, the COO, whatever your role is, not necessarily you specifically, but you, part of your team. So let me describe Scrum a little bit. We have a product owner, and that person is the business side of things that makes sure that the project is delivering what the business needs. It helps developers stay within the scope and not go off the rails. So the product owner will be the one that will be available for meetings. And then that person will bring in people that are experts in that specific thing. So be available to help describe the problem, describe the solution, describe what you want, and help unblock the development team. Number 2 is shorten the feedback loop. So one of the challenges with an offshore development team is sometimes they're in Asia, and that's a very different time frame. So there's not a lot of overlap. It can work, but at first it's very challenging because the feedback loop is a day. They may think they understand something, they're working on it, and then they email us while we're sleeping. And then we wake up in the morning and we look at our email and we're like, well, that's not really what we want. So they just burned a day because of unclear objectives. So if we can shorten that feedback loop, if you're outsourcing maybe someone in South America or Europe, Eastern Europe might be a little bit better because then the time difference is as much. And number 3 is to monitor when you need to pivot or adjust. So as you have those daily stand-ups or weekly meetings, whatever your cadence is on the meetings with the business and the product owner with the dev team, you can see when things are starting to take too long. You can see that we're falling behind schedule. So then you can adjust, a quick adjustment. Sometimes it's an adjustment in focus or scope, or, well, we want to do this over here, but we probably do that over there. So let's take a quick moment and make a pivot. Not a huge direction change, but just a minor one. Just like when you miss your exit, your GPS says, hey, you missed your exit. Gotta take the next one. Let's get back on track. Tip number 5, get out of their way. I know this sounds counterintuitive, but this is a critical piece. I worked on a project for a company here in town, and we were developing a new framework, or a platform actually, for all their other products to sit on top of. We had a timeline of 6 months, and we were tasked with rebuilding that from scratch. We were tasked with building that from scratch, from the ground up, to make a more maintainable architecture and platform for their other systems to communicate with each other and build a cleaner, easier to maintain product on top of that. We were, the goal for the team from the business was just to get it up and running and getting two services connected to each other. But since the business got out of our way, we had a really good team and we were able to get all their services connected to each other within the 6 months. I think that there were several things that contributed to that. One is them getting out of our own way. 2, we had a great Scrum Master. And 3, we had top-notch people that were all motivated, all working hard, and all working smart to get to the goal. We had clear objectives. That was probably the 4th thing. So by getting out of their way, you're still monitoring, but you're not micromanaging. There's a big difference between monitoring and micromanaging. Whenever a software project is delayed somehow, or for whatever reason, the business always wants to have more meetings. Well, more meetings mean less work. More meetings mean context changes. It takes 20 minutes to get back in the flow at a minimum. So every time there's a meeting, then you've just wasted 20 minutes plus the meeting plus the lead time, because they're not going to be effective up to the meeting time sometimes, because if there's a meeting and then a gap of half an hour and then another meeting, you just wasted meeting time here, the meeting time there, the gap in the middle, and 20 minutes on each end. That doesn't help anyone. So don't micromanage, but maintain a support role and just try to help them do the best by getting out of their way. Let them do their job. They know what they're doing. If they didn't, then we go back to hire the right dev team. And sometimes you find that adjustments need to be made with personnel. Most of the time, that's not the case though. We've made it this far. It's time for tip number 6. This one sounds dumb, but say thank you. Let me tell you a little story of where this comes from. I was working with a client, and my point of contact I had known for 20 years. I'd worked with her on other projects. No, don't say her. I'd worked with this person on other projects, and we're on a 6-month project. We were killing it. We were delivering software on a good cadence. Everything was going to plan, and the project was a huge success. However, this company, they are meeting heavy, and everyone was always late to meetings. Everyone else always so stressed. Everyone was working on the client side, was working like 80, 100, 120-hour weeks. That does not make for a good team effort. And this person only said thank you to the team twice in 6 months. And they always sounded like they didn't have time for the team. So the team would always ask me, well, is everything okay? Are we doing a good job? And they didn't know. They couldn't gauge that. So just say thank you. Just be kind. Everyone loves kindness. If you want to hop on a call with me, there's a link in the description below. I'd love to see what you're working on. So what's been your biggest challenge with software projects? Leave me a comment, let me know, and we can collaborate on projects. You can brainstorm and we can see how we can help each other. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.